The Motivator Show. The internet's most inspirational podcast. Every Saturday morning from 8 to 10. The Motivator Show. Fathers' opinions of Britain's maternity services. Black maternal healthcare mortality debate in Parliament on Monday the 19th of April 2021. Keynote speaker Bell Ribeiro Addy, MP. Black women are 4 times more likely to die during pregnancy and childbirth, highlighting a severe racial disparity in maternal health care. She observed that perceptions and treatment of black women during pregnancy are often biased and inadequate. A significant percentage of African and Caribbean women experience severe complications during pregnancy, yet there are no specific targets to address these issues. Black babies have a significantly higher risk of neonatal death and stillbirth, emphasizing the urgency for targeted intervention. Bell criticises the UK government for denying institutional racism and calls for concrete action and targets to protect black women and, of course, our children. The All-Party Parliamentary Group on Black Maternal Health. The MP's pledge. I pledge to call on the government to use existing data to set targets to close the gap in the mortality rates and address the overall disparities in maternal outcomes. The list of MPs who have signed the pledge so far include Diane Abbott, Lillian Greenwood, Kim Johnson, Helen Hayes, Douglas Chapman, John McNally, Bell Ribeiro Addy, Asma Begum, Florence Eshelome, Caroline Noakes, Marsha Dekova, MPs. Research by Bournemouth University, Dr. Andrew Mayers, Principal Academic in Psychology. Fathers in maternity care services. Studies reveal that fathers felt alienated and unclear regarding their role within maternity services. Many fathers reported feeling isolated and ignored during and following traumatic birth experiences, such as following an emergency cesarean section or any other variation from a birth plan, especially if there's a potential risk of harm or death for the mother or child. Healthcare professionals and perinatal mental health services need a better understanding of what support fathers feel they may need during their partner's pregnancy. New dads and partners, how your involvement matters, the impact. Research shows that the presence of an involved father during pregnancy reduces rates of premature birth and infant mortality. For example, mothers-to-be with involved fathers are 50% more likely to receive appropriate medical care during pregnancy. And mothers-to-be who were smokers when they became pregnant are 36% more likely to quit smoking when fathers are supportive. The fathers or partners can also be a great birth coach. They can help the pregnant partner with breathing and positioning during labour, while paying attention to the signals they are giving about how much help they want from moment to moment. New dads and partners, how your involvement matters, the impact. Compared to newborns in a crib, in the first 2 hours after birth, a baby placed on their father's chest cries less, falls asleep sooner, and shows less agitation. But whatever the situation, the mother will need care and fathers have a chance to enjoy the closeness of their newborn baby while skin to skin. New dads and partners, how your involvement matters, the impact. Sleep deprivation is inevitable with a new baby, but fathers and partners can help here too. Take shifts with nappy changes, feeding if bottle feeding, and rocking and calming the newborn. Even just a few hours in bed can help mums cope better with the stresses of a new parenthood. Putting effort into helping the mother adjust to having a baby will help both parents overcome the stress and fatigue of this enormous life change. Make time for cuddling, snuggling and massaging, activities that contribute to a strong and loving bond. New dads and partners, how your involvement matters. Southwark Council's Maternity Commission, listening to fathers and male carers. On the 13th of July 2024, from 10:30 to 12:30. Location, First Place Children's Centre, Chlr Gardens, in Burgess Park, London, SE5 0RJ. Lunch is provided. Your opportunity to be heard. The Motivator Show. Success is ours for the taking. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's free. Press the like button and don't forget to leave a comment. Follow us on Facebook. Give us the thumbs up and share with your family and friends. We are also on Instagram and TikTok. Follow us there too. You can listen to us on galaxy.net and also Mixcloud too. The Motivator Show. The internet's most inspirational podcast. Every Saturday morning from 8 to 10. The Motivator Show. Fathers' opinions of Britain's maternity services. Black maternal healthcare mortality debate in Parliament on Monday the 19th of April 2021. Keynote speaker Bell Addy MP. Black women are 4 times more likely to die during pregnancy and childbirth, highlighting a severe racial disparity in maternal health care. She observed that perceptions and treatment of black women during pregnancy are often biased and inadequate. A significant percentage of African and Caribbean women experience severe complications during pregnancy, yet there are no specific targets to address these issues. Black babies have a significantly higher risk of neonatal death and stillbirth, emphasising the urgency for targeted intervention. Bell criticises the UK government for denying institutional racism and calls for concrete action and targets to protect black women and, of course, our children. The All-Party Parliamentary Group on Black Maternal Health. The MPs pledge. I pledge to call on the government to use existing data to set targets to close the gap in the mortality rates and address the overall disparities in maternal outcomes. The list of MPs who have signed the pledge so far include Diane Abbott, Lillian Greenwood, Kim Johnson, Helen Hayes, Douglas Chapman, John McNally, Belle Ribeiro Addy, Asma Begum, Florence Eshalomi, Caroline Noakes, Marsha DeCova, MPs. Research by Bournemouth University, Dr. Andrew Mayers, Principal Academic in Psychology. Fathers in maternity care services. Studies reveal that fathers felt alienated and unclear regarding their role within maternity services. Many fathers reported feeling isolated and ignored during and following traumatic birth experiences, such as following an emergency cesarean section or any other variation from a birth plan, especially if there's a potential risk of harm or death for the mother or child. Healthcare professionals and perinatal mental health services need a better understanding of what support fathers feel they may need during their partner's pregnancy. New dads and partners, how your involvement matters, the impact. Research shows that the presence of an involved father during pregnancy reduces rates of premature birth and infant mortality. For example, mothers-to-be with involved fathers are 50% more likely to receive appropriate medical care during pregnancy. And mothers-to-be who were smokers when they became pregnant are 36% more likely to quit smoking when fathers are supportive. The fathers or partners can also be a great birth coach. They can help the pregnant partner with breathing and positioning during labour, while paying attention to the signals they are giving about how much help they want from moment to moment. New dads and partners, how your involvement matters, the impact. Compared to newborns in a crib, in the first 2 hours after birth, a baby placed on their father's chest cries less, falls asleep sooner, and shows less agitation. But whatever the situation, the mother will need care, and fathers have a chance to enjoy the closeness of their newborn baby while skin to skin. New dads and partners, how your involvement matters, the impact. Sleep deprivation is inevitable with a new baby, but fathers and partners can help here too. Take shifts with nappy changes, feeding if bottle feeding, and rocking and calming the newborn. Even just a few hours in bed can help mums cope better with the stresses of a new parenthood. Putting effort into helping the mother adjust to having a baby will help both parents overcome the stress and fatigue of this enormous life change. Make time for cuddling, snuggling, and massaging, activities that contribute to a strong and loving bond. New dads and partners, how your involvement matters. Southwark Council's Maternity Commission, listening to fathers and male carers. On the 13th of July 2024, from 10:30 to 12:30. Location, First Place Children's Centre, Chumley Gardens, in Burgess Park, London, SE5 0RJ. Lunch is provided. Your opportunity to be heard. The Motivator Show. Success is ours for the taking. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's free. Press the like button and don't forget to leave a comment. Follow us on Facebook. Give us the thumbs up and share with your family and friends. We are also on Instagram and TikTok. Follow us there too. You can listen to us on galaxy.net and also Mixcloud too. The Motivator Show. The internet's most inspirational podcast. Every Saturday morning from 8 to 10. The Motivator Show. Father's opinions of Britain's maternity services. Black maternal healthcare mortality debate in Parliament on Monday the 19th of April 2021. Keynote speaker Rebel Addy MP. Black women are 4 times more likely to die during pregnancy and childbirth, highlighting a severe racial disparity in maternal health care. She observed that perceptions and treatment of black women during pregnancy are often biased and inadequate. A significant percentage of African and Caribbean women experience severe complications during pregnancy, yet there are no specific targets to address these issues. Black babies have a significantly higher risk of neonatal death and stillbirth, emphasizing the urgency for targeted intervention. Bell criticises the UK government for denying institutional racism and calls for concrete action and targets to protect black women and, of course, our children. The All-Party Parliamentary Group on Black Maternal Health, the MPs pledge. I pledge to call on the government to use existing data to set targets to close the gap in the mortality rates and address the overall disparities in maternal outcomes. The list of MPs who have signed the pledge so far include Diane Abbott, Lillian Greenwood, Kim Johnson, Helen Hayes, Douglas Chapman, John McNally, Bell Ribeiro Addy, Asma Begum, Florence Eshelome, Caroline Noakes, Marsha Dekova, MPs. Research by Bournemouth University, Dr. Andrew Mayers, Principal Academic in Psychology. Fathers in maternity care services. Studies reveal that fathers felt alienated and unclear regarding their role within maternity services. Many fathers reported feeling isolated and ignored during and following traumatic birth experiences, such as following an emergency cesarean section or any other variation from a birth plan, especially if there's a potential risk of harm or death for the mother or child. Healthcare professionals and perinatal mental health services need a better understanding of what support fathers feel they may need during their partner's pregnancy. New dads and partners, how your involvement matters, the impact. Research shows that the presence of an involved father during pregnancy reduces rates of premature birth and infant mortality. For example, mothers-to-be with involved fathers are 50% more likely to receive appropriate medical care during pregnancy. And mothers-to-be who were smokers when they became pregnant are 36% more likely to quit smoking when fathers are supportive. The fathers or partners can also be a great birth coach. They can help the pregnant partner with breathing and positioning during labor, while paying attention to the signals they are giving about how much help they want from moment to moment. New dads and partners, how your involvement matters, the impact. Compared to newborns in a crib, in the first 2 hours after birth, a baby placed on their father's chest cries less, falls asleep sooner, and shows less agitation. But whatever the situation, the mother will need care and fathers have a chance to enjoy the closeness of their newborn baby while skin to skin. New dads and partners, how your involvement matters, the impact. Sleep deprivation is inevitable with a new baby, but fathers and partners can help here too. Take shifts with nappy changes, feeding if bottle feeding, and rocking and calming the newborn. Even just a few hours in bed can help mums cope better with the stresses of a new parenthood. Putting effort into helping the mother adjust to having a baby will help both parents overcome the stress and fatigue of this enormous life change. Make time for cuddling, snuggling and massaging, activities that contribute to a strong and loving bond. New dads and partners, how your involvement matters. Southwark Council's Maternity Commission, listening to fathers and male carers. On the 13th of July 2024, from 10:30 to 12:30. Location, First Place Children's Centre, Chlr Gardens, in Burgess Park, London, SE5 0RJ. Lunch is provided. Your opportunity to be heard. The Motivator Show. Success is ours for the taking. Oh yes, success is ours for the taking. It's the motivator here. This is where we translate our words into action, and where success is ours for the taking. How are you feeling, people? How are you feeling? I'm feeling fantastic. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I hope you're feeling well too. It's been a fantastic strong so far. Outstanding strong. Hey, we've got a general election coming up on the 4th of July. Oh, I'm going to have fun. Truly, I'm going to have fun. And you too. Don't forget to vote. That's what I say to you. Don't forget to vote. Your vote matters. Need I say more on that subject for a while? Only for a while, and go right into this show, right into this podcast, because this is going to be a thrilling, enlightening, empowering experience, one you will not forget. I hope you're feeling strong. And if you're not, by the end of this podcast, the end of this show, you will be feeling strong. Okay, let's go right into it. Let's go right into it. First of all, for those of you who are unaware, this show, this podcast, goes out in many forms on many platforms nowadays. And the reason for that is to ensure that you always got the opportunity to see this show, this podcast, wherever you are, whatever platform you prefer. Let me put it back on the screen. Let me get the right one. There we go. Get it up on the screen in a second. And the whole purpose of us going across platforms is to ensure that you can choose what is right for you. Many of you will be aware, those who are on YouTube right now, we go out live via YouTube under the Motivator Show. Many of you will be aware of you're on Facebook. We go live via Facebook these days. Yeah? And of course, you'll be aware we go live via mixed clouds, of course, these days. Yeah. And of course, more recently, many of you will be aware that we go live via Instagram, all under the Motivator show. Like, that's where you can find it. And of course, excerpts, of course, now go out via Instagram. Long may continue that way. If in doubt, just ask the motivator. Yeah, this is supposed to enliven, empower, make you feel so well overwhelmed. You'll never feel downcast again. Never feel downcast again. But before I continue, I want to give a big thumbs up if I can. Oh, in fact, just do the stars, shall we? A big thumbs up on all the stars, of course, to those on galaxy.net. Yeah, let's give a big thumbs up to them. But of course, that's a digital radio station. Been going for 40 years, 40 years. And long may they continue going for another 40 years. And long may that happen. But I have to make a quick announcement. One of the longest standing elders from galaxy.net recently passed to the ancestors. That's, of course, Elder Herikute. His nine night, of course, gathering will be on the 25th, in other words, today. Okay? And this will be at the Livesey Memorial Hall. That's 225 Perry Hill, and that's London, S for sugar, E6 4HD. For those of you who wish to go and attend Elder Erikute's nine night, please, I urge you to do so. I give the address again. It's from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. today. That will be at the Livesey Memorial Hall at 225 Perry Hill. That's London, SE6 4HD. Elder Eric Fruity taught myself a great deal, understanding African history. Yep, true African history, unfiltered history. And long may his memory continue with you all. Rest in peace and in love, Elder Eric Fruity. Okay. Now let me know also now, let's move on to the other aspect of the show. Wasn't last week's show a fantastic occasion? Okay? Wasn't it a fantastic occasion? Okay? We marked, of course, this wonderful drama, Windrush Warriors drama, written and acted in by the remarkable Cllr Gardner. I actually fulfilled my promise. I went along last night. It was truly a thrilling experience. I want to commend that play to you all. And if you were not there last night, and there were quite a few there last night, it's on again tonight. Okay? And that's, of course, at the Theatre Peckham, Haville Street, here in Peckham in London. I commend this play. And what I might do, if I can find it, is get the right caption up, and you can see the details. But if you haven't seen the Windrush Warriors, I urge you to do so. We put up on the screen. There you go. So it's the Theatre Peckham. That's 221 Haville Street, London, SE5 7SB. It's showing tonight at the 25th of May. Go online to obtain your ticket. theatrepeckham.line-up.tickets, or just put in Theatre Peckham and it will take you to the relevant pages. I urge you to go along. It's a play well worth seeing. Authentic accounts of what it's like to go through his experience, but in a very comedic fashion. So it's not heavy, but it is heavy. It's serious, but not so serious. I can assure you, it is a serious matter. But she presents it extremely well. I commend Cllr Gardner to you. I commend her to you. Well done, Cllr. It was wonderful meeting you in the flesh, as it were. Okay, but I urge you all, if you've not seen this play, please go along to the Theatre Peckham here in London. Okay, I'll put up on the screen again, and use your search engine and look for Theatre Peckham, and you put in Windwash Warriors, you'll be taken to the relevant page. There you go. Well done, Nicola. Well done. Well done. Now, of course, next segment of the show is, of course, those all important and crucial lifestyle messages. I was reminded, as I prepared for this particular show, why our lifestyle is so profoundly important. I've mentioned that right across Britain, I'm pleased that the community is coming together in common aim and common purpose. I say again, in common aim and common purpose, regardless of religious affiliation, regardless of ethnic affiliation, regardless of national identity, coming together in common aim and common purpose, because your health is truly your wealth. Let me put that, I'm going to say that again, just for additional emphasis. Your health is indeed your true wealth. I cannot understate how important it is. And that's why this particular episode of the Motivator Show, we will have some excellent guests where we're going to discuss maternal health, but from the point of view of men, fathers, dads, yeah, male partners, if you like. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're going to have a real discussion. And you're going to see why your health is so important, both for men and women. But for the wider community, set aside our desire to continue to reproduce. Your health is your wealth, and we must take care of ourselves. Many of you be aware that I'm an elected official of senior official figures, and they make for uncomfortable reading. And therefore, it's incumbent upon me to share with you standard, typical lifestyle messages we should all pay attention to. I realize the habits, and you get into habits, it's difficult to change those habits. I get it, I get it, I get it. But for your sake, your loved one's sake, yeah, your children's sake, please consider the messages you're about to hear. Please consider. Let me put it back on the screen, shall I? Let's get it on the screen. There you go. Right, okay. It'll come up in a second. It will come up in a few moments when it comes up in a second. And what's important about these lifestyle messages is that they actually highlight the fact that it is our responsibility, I say again, our responsibility to take care and ensure we're living an appropriate lifestyle, a lifestyle that enables you to thrive. Because if you're not thriving, you're dying. Yes, it's that brutal. And I've told I shouldn't be quite so brutal, but I think it's necessary. Why? Because too many members of the community die long before their time. And it's directly related to our lifestyle. Let me put up on the screen for you. Why is that important? Well, look, many of the illnesses that we will mention in today's show will have their roots in how we live our lives. It will have their roots in how we live our lives. So here we go. Let's get it started, shall I? Very simple messages. Very, very simple messages. I ask you to consider the amount of sugar and salt that you consume each day. Sugar is one of those ingredients we add to our food on the basis it makes us feel good. It tastes nice. Yeah? Unfortunately, sugar and its molecules, it's very similar to the constituent parts of hormones in our brains and our bodies, and therefore can become quickly addictive. But the overconsumption of sugar, of course, can affect the effectiveness of our pancreas, which is, of course, where insulin is secreted from. If it's overwhelmed, it doesn't effectively break down the sugar, so we could use it, and it could potentially become poisonous, or indeed diabetes. Yeah. Equally, salt. Salt again is another one of those ingredients we add to our food on the basis it enhances our food. It may well have enhancing qualities. It is the overconsumption of salt which is a challenge, the hardening of the heart rate, the consequential increase in the desire of our heart to pump with even greater figure was a consequence of the raising of our blood pressures. Sugar and salt are base ingredients that we overconsume for potential long-term consequences. I ask you to consider the amount of sugar and salt that you consume each day. It's your choice, but I ask you to consider it. I equally ask you to consider the amount of fat that you consume each day. And you can see here raw meat. It's raw meat deliberately. You can see the meat, that's the red. You can see the fat, that's the white. I ask you to consider the amount of fat that you consume each day. It comes in many forms. Typically in meat, you can see it here, but once it's cooked, you cannot see it. But I can tell you that dairy products are simply another form of bovine or cow fat. Cheese, butter, margarine, milk, for the most part, is just fat. Milk is fine for babies, yeah, but for adults, it is questionable, I say. I ask you to consider the amount of fat that you're consuming each day. And of course, consider the long-term implications for you. I ask you to consider the amount of starch that you consume each day. Starch is one of those ingredients that is in our diet, but very much it's covered in the form of, there we go, rice. And of course, those of you from the Caribbean, particularly Jamaicans, I recognize what you're about to say when I say this. Oh, boy, I get it. And that's, of course, rice and peas. And if from West Africa down out to Nigeria, and I get it, what I'm about to say, I can hear the cries now. Yes, the jollof rice. It is primarily and simply starch. Starch which our bodies assume what the quantity that we consume. Now, what we're seeking to do is to eat for a rainy day which never comes, which then can have consequential impact on our body. I ask you to consider the amount of starch which you're consuming. You see on the right-hand side of my screen, you see where starch is hidden in these pretty foods, these fairy cakes and biscuits and so on, full of starch. Like you have to question the nutritional value of the food we now have on the screen. I ask you to consider the amount of starch that you consume each day. Of course, what the experts recommend, in fact, let me just go back one stage. There we go. What the experts recommend is that you should eat no more than a fistful of food per sitting. The impact of the overconsumption of the sugars or the fat and the starch, and indeed the carbohydrates, that I've for some reason overlooked here on this occasion, is the consequential impact it has on our body. You can see on the screen a lady and a gentleman with the bloated shoulders, the bloated chest, the bloated abdomen, the bloated thighs, and of course, the bloated buttocks, or bottoms in. There you are, in polite company. Yeah, this is the consequence of overeating, particularly on the sugar and salt, the carbohydrates, yeah, the fats, and of course the starches. Yeah? This is the long-term implications of it for too many members of our community. And indeed, in our own community, I refer primarily, of course, to those of African heritage. The levels of obesity is off the charts. Levels of diabetes way above national averages. The levels of hypertension or high blood pressure is off the charts. Yeah? Directly related to our lifestyle. I ask you to consider the implications of all of our actions, but I was guilty of this as well. What the experts recommend is that we should eat far more fruits and vegetables, untainted foods, raw food ideally. You can see on the screen the tomatoes, the oranges, the sweet corn. You see the pears and the grapes. You see the noriega. You see the avocado, the cabbages, the melons. Yeah, this is what our bodies crave. Yeah, you see the beetroot. Yeah, you see the cucumber. Yeah, this is what our bodies crave. You see the cabbages. Yeah, you see the cauliflower. This is what our bodies crave. You see the oranges. Yeah, you see the parsnips. This is what our bodies crave. You see the mushrooms. Yeah, you see the turnips. This is what our bodies crave. Yeah, see the Brussels. This is what our bodies crave. This is the lemons. This is what our bodies crave. With this, it can build a human body, keep you in good health, support your mental and brain development. This is what our bodies crave. Yeah? This is what our bodies crave. Give the body what it needs. You see the carrots. This is what our bodies need. See the tomatoes. That's what our bodies. See the onions. You see the wonderful scallions there. See the bananas. This is what our bodies crave. This is what it needs to build you up, to maintain you in good vigor and in good fettle. This is what our bodies need. The untainted, unprocessed food I did. See the almond nuts here. This is what our bodies most crave. And of course, many of you be aware that we're more than 70% water. And whilst the foods I've just described all contain ample amount of water, of course we always need to be topped up. Depending upon your height and your mass, we ideally need between 2 to 3 litres of water per day. You can see the gentleman drinking his water, topping himself up, and you see the young lady here, she has a drink of water. Just top yourself up, make sure you've got appropriate electrolytes in that water. This is what we most need to maintain good health and vigor. But most critically, all I've described means absolutely nothing unless we exercise. Exercise for life. I say again, exercise for life. You see the young lady with her weight, pumping those weights, stretching those muscles, pulling those muscles. He's showing she maintains muscle vigor. You see the mature gentleman with his headphones in, he's smiling, he's running, he's feeling his vigor flowing through him. See the young lady running up and down those stairs, and I can show you that's real exercise. You do 20 of those, and I can show you your body will feel it. Do 40 of those, only if you practice prior, mind you, then you absolutely will feel invigorated. See the young man with bulging muscles, and he's determined to do at least 100, not 200 of those press ups. I'm not sure I can do that these days, but nevertheless, we can but think and admire him for his efforts. Yeah, this is what our bodies crave: good food, good exercise. This is what we need to maintain a healthy lifestyle, to boost our immune response, maintain good mental health. This is what we need to do. Good food, plenty of exercise. That is what we demand, our bodies demand. All the advice I've just given means absolutely nothing unless you're also conscious and you take care of your mental and spiritual health. These are critical parts of who we are as human beings. Okay? If in doubt of your mental health, please speak to your doctor. If you're unaware and unable to do so, please speak to whoever you most trust. I will trust that whoever you most trust will be someone who cares and will be sensitive and will help you to obtain the help you need. But most certainly, we are, of course, a spiritual people. I encourage you to speak to your spiritual advisors and find oneness both within yourself and, of course, the universe. I trust your spiritual advisor will give you the appropriate support that you aptly deserve. These messages are critical. These are critical for your general health and well-being. Let's go back to life. So these messages are crucial. We must think about our lifestyle, but not just consider our lifestyle has real implications for our general health and well-being. I say again, not to consider our lifestyle has real implications for our general health and well-being. If in doubt, speak to whoever you most trust. and ask the question of that person that I trust, whoever you most trust, is someone that is trustworthy. And what I'm encouraged by is the response by the community. The response from the community has been tremendous. I'm now aware across cities across Britain, people from the community are coming together in common aim and common purpose. They understand the fundamental nature of these messages, that often our cuisines are designed for a period where we need extreme amount of nutrients, extreme amount of energy. It's very rich food. Yes, that's true, but we now need to adapt our cuisine so it doesn't contain the intense amount of energy, the intense amount of richness, which was appropriate if you're working in the field for 18 hours a day. Yes, we no longer do so. And far too many members of the community are living relatively sedentary lifestyle. As a consequence, eating the cuisines which we have become accustomed to can have long-term, potentially negative impact on our general health and well-being. What I'm going to play is an example of a group of members of our community from right across the motherland of Africa and the Caribbean who've come together in common aim and common purpose and are exercising together. I commend to you the outstanding Countdown organisation, which are relatively local to where I am, but they are an example. Each time I go by, I see them exercising vigorously exercising. Long may they continue. This is happening in Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool, in Leicester, right across the country. Similar groups come together in common aim and common purpose.
Cheese. Famous.
Oh yeah.
Hello, 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 hello.
Exercise. Oh yeah.
You get one life only. Me self get one life only. Why we no go use am gladdy and enjoy the time. Palava no dey finish. Time me no dey wait nobody. Now why are they try for always get am nice every day and night? This one way we all fend we safe now nobody own. You want to eat with you much we go down you belly nine you young. And the balance where you go die left now all the money on. So why for the pity you say for? Now the motor car where you let buy am. If you see finance where you collect bill am. You meet up woman where you let yanam. And if you let the man na for keep am. Want them more. The food where you feel for eat na for eat am. That fine la power where you let na for buy am. And tire more. And if you baby love you back love am. But if you love them all now, you not for left am. Want them more. Cause nobody know what's in tomorrow hold. So every day of my life till I'm old, I fasting enjoyment stay go. I fall and for care for yourself. Nobody love you past your own self. All man they fed for himself. Now why I know they allowed with the other man they can't take me peace away. Me joy away, me smile away. Oh no, make nobody take you peace away. Me joy away, me smile away. Oh no, every day. I see they also they work for the pay. They like na boku on a small you cage. Land for the loose body 110. No to money, no to gently. No more they make motor man and bother. As long as you get waiting, you they eat. Land for the loose body 110. This one way we all fend we safe, now nobody own. You want to eat what you want, we go down you belly nine now you young. And the balance where you go die left now all the money on. So why for the pity you say for? Now the motor car where you let buy am. If you see finance where you collect bill am. You meet up woman where you let yanam. And if you let the man na for keep am. Want them more. The food where you feel na for eat 'em. Eat 'em. That fine la power you like na for buy 'em. Entire oh. And if you baby love you back love 'em. Love 'em. But if you love them all now you na for left 'em. Want them more. Cause nobody know wetin tomorrow all. So every day of my life tear all. I fasting enjoyment stay go. Now for land for care for yourself. Nobody love you pass you yourself. All man they fed for himself. Oh. Now why I know they allowed with the other man they can't take me peace away. Away, me joy away. Away, me smile away. Away, oh no no. No make nobody take you peace away. Away, me joy away. Away, me smile away. Away, oh no no. Away, away.
All right. Wasn't that fantastic? Coming together in common aim and common purpose, regardless of their religious affiliation, that come together, regardless of their ethnic affiliation, that come together, regardless of their national identity, that come together, regardless of their age, that come together. Yeah, we understand common aim and common purpose. Yeah, there's a synergy in there. We understand working together is the only way to be successful. Long may they continue, and all the similar groups going on happening across Britain right now. Long may their work continue. Staying fit and healthy, eating healthily, positive outlook in your life, exercising your body is an essential part of who you are as human beings. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. If you're not joined up exercise, I urge you to do so. I say again, if you haven't joined, I urge you to do so. In fact, if you live in South London, and you're not too far from Elephant and Castle, why don't you join the countdown? Why don't you join? I'll put up on the screen. This is where they exercise every Monday and Friday, 6:30 to 8 p.m. And that's, of course, Bodley Way. Bodley Way, which is number one Bodley Way, which is in Woolworths, which is 2 minutes from Elephant Castle. And you put it in your search engine, number one Bodley Way, Bodley Way, that's Woolworths, and the postcode S for sugar, E17, 1F for Freddy, N for Nkrumah. There you are. I commend them to you. A perfect example of what cooperative economics can perform. Long may that continue. All right, enough of that. I believe you've been fully exercised now and you understand the importance. You recall on my last podcast, I played the inaugural speech by the victorious Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. He won by a significant majority over the political opponents here in London. So London remains and maintains its stance of being a city that promotes Labour Party values, if I may say so. But equally here in Southwark, we've had some interesting changes. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to play a short video of the new mayor of Southwark, who just happens to be my ward colleague here, my humble ward here in North, a remarkable woman. I want you to listen to her speech that she gave when she was invested as Southwark's new mayor. I present to you Mayor Naima Ali, a remarkable human being. I'm going to play it now. Here we go. Listen carefully to her words.
I invite the new mayor to make her incoming speech.
Representative Deputy Lieutenant Simon Duckworth, High Excellency Roger Crony, High Commissioner Grenada, His Excellency Nathif Jama, Governor of Garissa County, His Excellency Pastor Umo of Akwa Ibom, the Very Reverend Mark Oakley, Dean of Southwark, MPs, past mayors, alderman, alderwoman, free person, Chief Executive of Southwark Council, councillors, community and faith leaders, brothers and sisters. I greet you with Islamic greeting, Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be upon you all. It is an absolute honor and privilege to stand before you as the Mayor of Southwark. I'm a proud Black, Muslim, Somali woman and a resident of Southwark. I'm so proud of how we celebrate, encourage, and foster diversity in Southwark. As late Joe Cox, MP, famously said, we have more in common than that divides us. I look forward to being the Mayor of Southwark, celebrating and recognizing people from all backgrounds. Today, I stand before you as a living proof that impossible is indeed possible. To all women out there, those who doubt their own strength and resilience, I'm here to tell you that you are capable of achieving anything that you set your mind into. 27 years ago, I arrived to UK with little more than a little dream and determination to create a better life for myself and my family. 3 years later, I was blessed with the arrival of my son, a beacon of light in that otherwise a dark and uncertain time. Tragically, just a year later, I lost my husband, leaving me to navigate the challenges of single motherhood with a newborn infant aside my side. But in the midst of my grief, I found strength. I looked into the eyes of my precious son, and I knew I had to be strong for him, and that I had to build a better future, not just for myself, but for all us. My grief turned to hope. Over the course of nearly 2 decades, I have faced adversity head-on, learning and growing with each challenge that comes my way. My experience working with clients struggling with addiction, refugees, victims of domestic violence, homelessness have been my greatest teachers, shaping me into the most compassionate and empathetic human being that stands before you today. Every hardship I faced has served to strengthen my resolve and deepen my empathy for those facing similar struggles. Today, I take on the role of bridging gaps and connecting our communities. I'm guided by the belief that humanity comes before anything else. Serving others is part and parcel of who I am, and I commit serving our brother with my tongue and my word, my heart and my love, and my hands, with my hands and my action. The theme of my mayoral year is Southwark Future, improving the life chances of our young people. I'm proud to announce the following charities and charitable projects that my mayoral year will be supporting. Speaker's Box. Speaker's Box is Southwark Children's in Care Council for young people who have experience in care. They are the voices of care experienced young people. They create opportunities for young people to hang out and have a say and be heard. Secondly, Living Bankside Academy, the award-winning summer program aimed at disadvantaged young people in Southwark, which is supported by prominent global, national, and local businesses and organizations. Thirdly, Action Aid UK. Action Aid UK is an international charity that works in partnership with local women's rights groups in countries with high rates of female genital mutilation, and to end these harmful practices for good. FGM is indeed very close to my heart. I'm proud to have been appointed as the FGM ambassador for Southwark and look forward to working with them to tackle harmful practices of FGM. I look forward to working with these three amazing charities and initiatives, as well as all charities, community groups, faith groups, businesses who make Southwark the truly amazing and exciting borough it is. Thank you all for attending today and all of the hard work and services from the award winners, councillors, community, and faith leaders. Thank you to Councillor Michael Situ for the amazing work you've done for the borough. I'd also like to extend my heartfelt thanks to my MP, Neil Coyle, for contributing significantly to where I am today. It's been truly inspiring listening to the selfless and remarkable work for individuals and organizations in Southwark. Together, we will forge a brighter, more inclusive and equitable future for all residents in Southwark. Thank you all.
Wow, huh? She's my colleague, I don't mind saying it. A remarkable human being. A speech delivered with such passion, such genuineness. It was quite a moving experience. So we now have a wonderful woman, yeah, a Muslim woman, yeah? A Somali woman who is now the first citizen of the London Borough of Southwark. Well done, Southwark. Yep. That's Southwark Labour for you. Values shining through. You saw the front bench there in Southwark, a place where we could all feel truly empowered. Oh yeah, well done. Well done. Well done. Okay. With that note, I can go straight into the main theme for today's podcast, today's show, which of course a theme that I touched on previously. And again, Southwark's Maternity Commission, which is reviewing and looking at maternity services in Southwark and indeed South London and most probably beyond. So it will have implications. But of course, the primary concern, of course, is health inequities. Yeah? There's a differential treatment or outcomes, particularly of mothers of African heritage, indeed Asian heritage, when entering the maternal system, the maternal services, maternal care in the borough. If there is a cause for concern. But today's show will look at it from the father's lens. Today's show will have the vice chair of the commission present. In fact, I'm going to bring them into the studio, introduce you to them, and then we'll give you the details about each of these wonderful people. But listen carefully to each of those words. They have a truly inspiring story to share. If I can bring them into the studio now, let's hope this works without any pain. It'd be nice, wouldn't it? There we go. Just put it in there. Oh, I think the first guest is in, and we try the second guest, if this works, it'd be wonderful. And the second guest is coming in now. It has worked. It has worked. Okay. Okay. Someone's got their phone very loud. That's my volume on the end. Perfect. There you go. Let's see. Whose mic is that? That's speaking with such vigor. Okay, never mind. I will record it. There you go. First of all, good morning to you both. Professor Donna Kinnair, good morning. It's your mic. Okay. In that case, I'm going to go over to the father present, to Councillor Jason Ochere. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning. Very good to
Whoa.
be with you.
Oh, wow.
Both.
You've got a very, very strong voice. Actually, boy, I'm going to make an adjustment at my end. Oh, wow. That was very good. All right. That's okay. He's a very strong young man. His voice booms. Okay, there you are. Okay, Professor, are you with us now? Yeah. Oh, no, she's not quite with us. So, while she's doing what she's doing, I'm going to go straight into this. I'm just conscious that I've eaten a little bit of your time. But, first of all, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and say just a little bit about yourself. But we're interested in an account that made you feel that there's hope for the world.
Thanks, Martin. So I think if I caught you correctly, you asked if I can introduce myself,
Yes,
and to then go on to talk about what made me feel that there's hope for the world.
absolutely, absolutely.
Did I get that correct?
Yes, you did.
Good. So my name is Councillor Jason Ochere. I'm a local councillor in the London Borough of Southwark, arguably the best borough in the country, a place where I was born and raised, and I'm also a father. I'm also a husband, and I'm also a proud citizen of the Ghanaian community. So that's a bit about me. I mean, in terms of what gives me hope for the world, I think what gives me hope for the world is progression on a range of things, whether it's around things to do with health, with economics, the opportunity that we have for young people, and all of that made possible through what we're discussing today, right? Which ultimately comes down to good maternal health and support that's provided to that process. And without good maternal health, ultimately all the opportunities that I talk about linked to economics, linked to opportunities for young people aren't made possible if the statistics continue to remain where they are, which is, I think, black women being 3.7 times or almost 4 times more likely than their white counterparts to pass away from childbearing, and of course the associated issues linked to that when they are survivors through traumatic experiences, and in even worse cases, young young well, I guess babies that are ultimately either born in very difficult circumstances, or sadly pass away during the process, of which all those opportunities that I pointed to aren't even possible without the baby even being able to come forth. So I mean, what gives me hope? I think hope is found in our opportunity here to discuss important matters, act on them, and hopefully improve the results for things linked to all those things aforementioned, most particularly what we're here to discuss today, which is Black maternal health.
There you go. Thank you, Councillor Cherry. You are, of course, anticipating my questions to come, but it's fine. It is fine. And your articulation of what gives you hope for the future is clear and unambiguous. Because this process we're now experiencing is an empowering process. Yeah? Nothing itself gives hope for the future. Let me, if I may, go to Professor Donna Kinnair, the Vice Chair of the Southwark Maternity Commission. Are you with us now, Professor? Can you hear me?
I am. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can. Yes, perfect. Good audio. Good audio. Can I invite you? I know I said Professor. I could say Donna, your choice. Can I just ask you just introduce yourself, Donna, and you might want to just share with us share with the audience your experience, your professional experience, and I'm going to ask you the same question. Is this share with us an experience that gives you hope for the future? First of all,
So I'm Donna Kinnair, and I'm a public health nurse by background, and have done many things in nursing and maternal health. And I guess the importance of the commission and what gives me hope for the future is 40 plus years ago, when I started out as a nurse, we wouldn't have even had a line of sight on some of the issues that we are seeing today. You know, when I started out, crown immunity was still there, so exposure of some of the things that were going on in the NHS wasn't possible. And I guess for me, the most important thing is that as a public health nurse, my aim is to make sure that people take control of their own health, and that them and their families are able to live good and purposeful lives with the best health that they can have. And hence, being part of the Maternity Commission means that actually we can see the stats. We know what's happening. We as communities can discuss what is happening to our people, and we can demand changes. Some of those changes we can make ourselves, and some of them we can ask of the system. And so that gives me much hope for the future, because as a clinicians, and I'm sure if you spoke to doctors that were of Black and Asian descent 40 years ago, we didn't have the voice because we didn't have the stats that we have and know now. We might have seen something going wrong, but we didn't have the underlying evidence. And so I'm pleased that as a community we can discuss this and make the necessary changes.
Thank you. Thank you. If I may call you Donna, that's okay.
I'm struggling to hear you, I have to be honest. I don't know if you are, but I'm really struggling to hear
I
you.
think make the adjustment
Microphone
on my
wise.
end. I heard you on. You were both so loud. Is that better? Is that better? Is that better? No.
It's vaguely better, but it's so I think I'm missing every other word. I don't know if that's the same for
I'm experiencing the same. So I might have even answered my own question based on the first question you asked. But
well, before you do that, I just want to make an adjustment. What I want to do, if I may, I just want to go back to Donna, and I'll make the adjustment to this end in a moment. Donna, you are the maternity champion at the World Free Hospital and the East London Foundation Trust. What is the role of the maternity champion in those two hospitals? What role do you play?
So the role of the maternity champion in certainly in an acute hospital is to ensure that we have culturally safe places for women and children to give birth. So actually my role is working with the staff as a champion for safety. So that's making sure that the staff can speak up, they can talk to me about some of the issues that they are seeing. I act as a model, so I'm in the departments where people are giving birth, talking to parents, families, children about their concerns, so that we are able to bring it to the fore. I also sit on the board of those organisations, so I'm able to not only just support the workforce, listen and hear the voices of birthing families, but also take those issues to the board and ensure that they're acted upon. So that's the role really of a maternity champion. And they were brought about because of some of the inequalities that we see, both in access and experience of people having giving birth.
Just to be clear, so the maternity champion is it typically a health professional like yourself, or can a lay person be a maternity champion generally, in your opinion?
I mean, you can be I took over from somebody that wasn't a nurse, but I guess if you've got the added knowledge about maternity services, it's easier for you to know where to look. And often you inspire confidence in staff because they know that you know and understand the issues. But it's not exclusive to a clinical person, but you would, and you do are part of a network where you can get the correct clinical advice. But most of us are clinical people.
Understood. Thank you for that response. And I will come back to you in a moment, Councillor Ochere. I did want to just a few further questions for Professor Donna Kinnair. What is the Southwark's Maternity Commission's purpose? And do you agree that the recent parliamentary report, MPs concluded that the current government and NHS measures to address the disparity in maternal deaths are necessary but insufficient? Okay, and just to note that the committee was concerned that the government and NHS leadership have underestimated the extent to which racism plays in the role in perpetuating inequalities. Would you agree? So, first of all, the purpose of the commission, and would you agree with the MP's assessment of the government's response to what I would say is an emergency, but I'll leave it to you to respond.
Yeah, so the purpose of the commission is to really assess the issues that local people feel and see in terms of health inequalities. So we're talking to people about their experience in terms of access, experience and outcomes. And we're doing that not just with people, but staff, maternity colleagues, public health people, to really know that whether some of these issues are affecting us locally. And the question is yes, because we wouldn't have many national reports saying that they're affecting us locally. So the other part from that is, how do we assess the local implementations of all these recommendations that are being made? Because unless we put the recommendations in place and into practice, nothing is going to change. And then we locally want to identify additional areas for action. So what else over and above that can we do to improve the birthing experience of people and families?
Yes. Thank you for that response. It's very clear. I've had the opportunity, for my penance, I suppose, I've read a number of very weighty reports, oh gosh, and they contain significant detail. But when you distill the essence of each of those reports, the outcomes are much the same. That there is serious disparities. Okay, there is a question. I will use this term, and you're a professional, you may not like the term. Question of professional competences and how those competences are delivered to different ethnic groups. Okay, and also the contributory factor that our lifestyle might play in this entire experience in terms of the vulnerability of particularly both men, but especially birthing mothers or women, and what has happened and what effect their lifestyles had on the entire experience. Okay. So I just want to follow up very quickly on what you've described. What is the potential, I'm going to use the word potential, impact of alcohol consumption, diabetes, high blood pressure, lack of exercise, poor mental health, obesity on a woman's or man's ability to, I'm not going to use that other word, but I will use the word to, of course, to be a part of that creating new life. There you are. I'm going to use that better. There you are.
Okay. So there is a saying that goes, if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail.
Indeed.
So one of the things that we want to see is that when women are giving birth, or preparing to give birth, they're in good health.
Indeed, yes.
So we know that you can't always, a lot of the conditions you're describing are lifestyle conditions, so we won't be able to turn them off overnight. But we know that obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure predominantly affects, well, not predominantly, it affects all people, but we know that there's a significant increase in our communities.
Yes.
And hence, if my personal advice this morning is that actually if people are thinking about having children, then those things need to be monitored and under control. It's not that we can stop people being obese, but you can certainly take exercise. You can certainly make sure that you're in the best possible physical health before you embark on pregnancy and giving birth. So we know that 26% of Black women have these conditions. They face birth complications, and that's 26% when they're only 5% of the deliveries.
Yeah.
So we know that there's an increased risk if we have these conditions, and we also know that people that have these conditions, it has poor outcomes in health, both antenatally, both postnatally as well. So what I would want to say is that if we can diminish the contributing factors to poor outcomes, we stand a better chance to have a good birthing experience, good outcomes in terms of our health and the baby's health.
And of course, much of what you say sounds as if it's common sense, really, isn't it? It's really just common sense advice, really, which is why each of the episode of the Demotivator show, I have a section devoted to lifestyle messages. And if you were on earlier on, you would have seen us running the exercise on why we need to control our intake of sugars, salt, carbohydrates, and starches, and fats, and so on. And it most certainly is impacting on the community. And I can see right across London, right across the country, the community is responding to those basic, straightforward lifestyle messages. And I'm pleased you've highlighted this. And if I may, Professor, before I go back to the councillor, amongst those reports, again, another common theme in those reports are the complications in pregnancies that might be found. Okay, and these are terms I'm sure you'll recognise. Gastronomal, get it right, diabetes, another one, preeclampsia and eclampsia, preterm labour, hypertension, which we just talked about, heart disease. Again, I was surprised, about 20%. Gosh, heart disease in pregnant women. And then I was shocked to discover fibroids, which apparently is growing in percentage as opposed to declining. It's actually growing. And postpartum hemorrhaging. This is where bleeding. Okay, can you just talk to any of those conditions as to what we can do as a community to reduce these conditions, particularly, for example, heart disease and fibroids, for example, which apparently are growing and not declining? It's quite frightening, to be honest with you.
So there are some things that we can do, and some things we're a victim of circumstances.
Okay.
But the most important thing is during pregnancy to get your health monitored. I did a study in the borough of Lewisham, I think, in 1991 on the deaths of babies. Okay. And one of the things that it really showed is that people need to get early access to care. Mm-hmm. So you may not even know that you have fibroids. And fibroids, just for an explanation, are uterine growths. Yes. They're growths in the uterine, and many of them are hormonal dependent, and therefore sometimes during pregnancy they grow. But the most important thing is to be monitored, so that actually someone is looking at whether the baby is being pushed, squeezed by these growths, or is whether the baby stands a good chance of going to a normal delivery. Yes. And with things like, obviously, empowerment is being able to do your bit. So, as I said, making sure you're in the best of health. Mm-hmm. So actually making sure that you're checked out when you're considering embarking on a pregnancy, mm-hmm. making sure we know if you're suffering from uterine fibroids. Yeah. We know that most of these things are discovered during pregnancy. Yes. And obviously one of the big factors is age and obesity.
Okay.
So those are things that we can do something about. We can't do something about everything, mm-hmm. because actually, if you're a victim of uterine fibroids, that is a condition that needs to be monitored and looked after. But the most important thing is that you understand what's going on with your body. You have some control and empowerment over being able to take good exercise. There's nothing better than good exercising, monitoring our weight, eating well.
Yes.
And those are the things that we as individuals can contribute to our lifestyle. And it can start today. So anybody that's considering embarking on pregnancy, both male and female, we also know that those things impact on male health as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Good.
if
Well
we
said.
don't want cardiovascular disease, start eating properly. And while we've got some good, delicious foods, it's about the quantity that we eat sometimes. It's not necessarily just the foods. So I think that's what I would say to you is that in the main, in the general, if we can look after our health, then we have better chances of good outcomes. There are some things, as I said, that are genetic, outside our control. But the most important thing then is to know about them, get them monitored and treated as early as we can.
And just very quickly, interesting report on eclampsia. Again, not declining, growing. Where our women are particularly vulnerable to this particular condition. Can you just describe what it is and what potentially you may or may not know why it apparently is growing in the community in terms of the experience of birth of women? To me, I found these reports. I'm normally, as you know, I'm a very I'm a cup half full type of person, but I must say, having read a number of these reports, I became somewhat concerned.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah. So preeclampsia and eclampsia, this is of course. Anyway, you're the expert. Let me not describe it. You tell them what it is and what we could do to mitigate its presence in the birthing experience. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So preeclampsia is having high blood pressure and protein in your urine. And it comes with a number of symptoms. Sometimes it's gradual, but often women talk about experiencing severe headaches, vision problems, sometimes pain just below the ribs, vomiting. And one of the classic signs when you're seeing a woman is swelling of the hands and the feet. Sometimes it's very sudden and it doesn't have a lot of warning. But one of the reasons why we take good obstetric history and we monitor women's blood pressure during the pregnancy is to look out for these sorts of symptoms. So it's really, really important. And I can't advise it enough. Attending antenatal appointments are so important. And also being aware of your own health and any said changes in that you want to communicate immediately to your GP or hospital. So there are many things on hand that we can do about these conditions if you catch them early enough. Although many cases are mild, there are conditions that become so serious that it can attribute to the loss of mother and baby and a poor outcomes. So it needs to be monitored and it needs to be treated. And the way in which you get that is by making sure you're participating in your antenatal appointments. I mean, one of the things that I talked about in that earlier study in Lewisham and so on was people attending their appointments, access, making sure that they're following the trajectory of their health and making sure it stays as good health.
Thank you. And if I may, just last one that apparently is continuing to increase is one that you and I discussed on a previous occasion, that's the postpartum hemorrhaging that's occurring. And this is, of course, I'll let you explain, but again, I'm totally perplexed by this, and it's not a discussion within the community. But can you explain what it is, postpartum hemorrhaging, and what is the implications of it for mothers going through pregnancy?
So it's quite a difficult thing to explain because there are many causes for the hemorrhage. But essentially, hemorrhage means bleeding out. Yeah. So you're a massive blood loss after giving birth. And that, of course, if you lose too much blood, it becomes where, life isn't possible. So what we do want to do is make sure that our uterus is fit and healthy, that if the placenta is coming away, that it comes away in a proper manner. And so again, what I can urge is that this needs or requires good monitoring of health by both professionals and mothers. Mothers and people giving birth often know when there's something wrong. So it's absolutely essential that those giving care hear that and are able to take action, because clearly the earlier we take action, the better the outcomes. Obviously things can happen, but the quicker we get in there and take the necessary action, the better the outcomes for mother and baby. So, and as to your question, which I'm not deliberately avoiding, but why these things are arising, or it feels as though things are rising, I think we have so much better monitoring of things these days that we actually know the statistics. When I was giving birth 40 years ago, I didn't know the statistics as well as I do know them now. And the other thing is, I would also say that the risk is rising because risks in pregnancy are sometimes age related. So we have people giving birth much older.
Yes.
And sometimes by the time you're giving birth, you're also the victim of a number of long-term conditions. And therefore, those are some of the reasons. And again, as you said, really, it's also about the care and competency given by the staff, the training and education. All of those things are factors that, if they come together, they can give for a good outcome. If they don't come together well, then we're not looking at good outcomes.
Thank you. If I now focus on the Southwark Maternity Commission. First of all, as a father, and Councillor Ochere, of course, as another father, we're pleased finally we're actually being recognised, he says. And on the 13th of July, we'll be listening to the experience of fathers whose partners or wives have experienced maternity care services in Southwark or in London. Okay, we can hear the father's testimony. Okay, can I just first of all just clarify from yourself as the vice chair, and I have spoken briefly with the chair, Councillor Evelyn Akoto, who I hope to have back again sometime in July. Why there's a session devoted to fathers. Then I go to Councillor Cherry, as a father, his feeling on the matter. But anyway, over to you first of all, Donna.
Okay, so fathers are 50% of our population, so they, they play a huge, or half of who makes a baby. So I think they're as important as mothers. We tend to focus on mothers or who are going through the birthing experience, but we know that fathers play a huge part in making it possible for empowerment of women if fathers are present. Also, I think it's really important that fathers understand what's happening to their wives. There's lots of things going on there, emotions, hormones, all sorts of things that fathers can contribute to. And then ultimately, children come into families where both mother and father are a component part of who raises them, and we want them both there. So for me, fathers are absolutely a critical part of the birthing experience. They help women, they empower their partners. They can speak up on behalf of their partners. If they're in tune with what's going on, sometimes they can explain things. They can take decisions alongside their partners. So they're absolutely fundamental to the care that we give and the experience that women have. you know, I sometimes snigger when I think back to my own birthing experience, and actually, you know, they're also the people that we as women take it out on during the birthing experience.
Oh
So
yes,
you're not going to do it to the midwife; you're going to do it to the father.
oh yes.
So I also think that you know these things are essential. But as I said, if you don't prepare, you're actually preparing to fail.
That's
So
right.
if you want a good outcome, a good experience, good access, then I think it's about making sure that both parties are equipped with the knowledge to be able to make sure that they can navigate the system well. The NHS works well for people that can navigate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Councillor Cherry, of course, I understand that you will be on the panel on the 13th. First of all, you are a father. Just tell us about your experience of being a father in the early days when you had your first child. Tell me how you felt and how was your wife responding. Just give us a feeling from a father's perspective, because it's so rare in this context we hear from fathers. But anyway, go ahead.
Look, I mean, for any brand new father, it's you're trying to navigate a whole new world that you've never really been exposed to, other than, I guess, your relationship between your father and you as a child, right? I think one thing that really, I guess, came to highlight during the whole kind of pregnancy process and the role as a father in it is the role that fathers can act as advocates within the healthcare system,
Yes.
and ensuring that partners receive both, in my opinion, the appropriate and respectful care that they need.
Mhm.
And just to add to that, the presence of fathers is super important in the role they have in the insistence of quality that can address, you know, some of the biases and neglect that women might face in medical settings, and that's particularly true for Black women.
Mhm.
And so I think it taught me how to ask questions,
Mhm.
and it definitely enlightened me about some of the medical terms that are used and how decisions are made. And I remember asking all sorts of questions, like even questions that weren't related to our specific circumstance. So
Mhm.
I remember we were at King's, and I remember asking, it was the midwife in charge actually.
Mhm.
And I was just like, out of insatiable curiosity, how many women that you see who are going through the childbirthing experience
Mhm.
end up having a cesarean,
Okay.
compared to having a birth that's natural.
Mhm.
And hearing her speak, and also speaking to our midwives who we had a home birthing experience, which we ended up in the hospital, but the whole process, um, with dealing with community with midwives and having someone come to your home, spend time with you, build a relationship with a particular person over a sustained time, and understanding the tensions there are between midwives and I guess doctors,
Mhm.
and I guess the general feeling for most midwives that I spoke to was, you know, their their preference for for I guess women to give birth naturally, and this
Yes.
is me just distilling it in quite a crude way,
Mhm.
and the role that doctors kind of play in the whole process, and the importance for them in, I guess, mitigating an issue that might arise in a pregnancy, and ensuring that the baby is just born safe. And that's just me simplifying it, but
Mhm.
that's the tension I kind of found within the
Mhm.
healthcare system that, I guess, enlightened me, and it allowed me to ask much more questions. And so
Mhm.
when we speak about things like, you know, high blood pressure, protein in the urine, and you know, MCA being high, and all
Yes.
of these things, like what impact does that have on, um or not just your understanding of how the system works, but
Mhm.
how you make decisions for both you and your partner,
Yeah.
who's going through a process which is, can be quite overwhelming. They're carrying a baby. They're managing, you know, the hormones that are attached to the childbirth and experience, as well as the overload of expectation on women in particular to ask questions in a process which can feel very overwhelming. So the role of fathers in becoming advocates, I think, is something that should never be overlooked.
Yes. Okay. And thank you for that. And I had experience, and I share this with from Professor Donna here, that in my second child, the nurse promptly, within 2 minutes of the birth, about to inject my newborn with vitamins. I prevented that. Well, she doesn't need vitamins. Why on earth are you doing that? And there wasn't a response, and the vitamins were not administered. Did you have similar experience where a nurse suddenly started to administer what are some medicines without further discussion with yourself? Did that happen to you?
That didn't in particular happen to me, but there were instances where, for example, there was an assessment done, and my wife's blood pressure was a bit raised, and so we were asked to come into the hospital for extra monitoring.
Okay.
And I know during the time of extra monitoring, and I know this is very different to the example that you give, but linked, there was an expectation from my perspective to ensure that the blood pressure was checked continually. I think the healthcare professionals refer it to as OBS. And me just being there to ensure that that was being done on a consistent basis. And there were instances where we were kind of neglected for more than, I think at one point, for more than for about 15 hours, and no OBS were done. So it was my role to kind of get up, in my opinion, and go and ask the nurse, look, OBS haven't been done. We don't know where the blood pressure is at the moment. It would be good for you to be able to assess that, so that if there is any medical intervention needed, it's being done in an informed manner rather than in a rushed manner, which is, okay, well, we've just assessed the situation now, and it looks like we need to make a critical decision, which is to rush you off to the theatre and for you to have a C-section, something like that. But I think the role in asking questions, and I think that links back to what the example that you just given, which is if something's about to be administered or decisions about to be taken, you understanding why that's being done and what the process up to the point at which that decision is about to be made is about to be taken.
Thank you. And I wonder, Professor Donna, would you want to comment on both our observations in terms of that experience? What would you say in that regard?
So, as I said to you, with your experience, it's really good that you notice that, because that for me is how has anybody received informed consent to administer, which I believe was probably vitamin K, which is an essential vitamin to stop. But the point of it is that there needs to be a discussion for you to be able to give informed consent. Absolutely. And that is exactly the same point for both of you, really. What you don't want to do is arrive at a poor outcome without people having taken a decision along the way. And we know that the workforce is busy in maternity services. I'm sure you'll both attest to that, and anybody listening to this podcast, but that shouldn't distract us from giving the right treatment and the right quality of care to our patients. So it's really important that fathers are able to speak up. They are able to advocate on behalf of their partners, because actually we know that sometimes you're going through a huge amount of pain. There's lots of things going on in that moment, and you do need somebody by your side to help you through that situation. So for me, my comment is one of the things that I will be advocating for is good educational classes for parents thinking of becoming parents. I think it's so essential that all of those things that you've experienced are covered. What does continuous monitoring of blood pressure mean? It's not every 15 hours, surely, and we don't want to arrive at a situation where something has happened and we can't account for the last 15 hours. So it's absolutely essential. And it's not nobody will have deliberately not done that. Somebody will have gone off to do something for someone else and it will have been forgotten. But we can't afford that. It just needs our advocates in healthcare to make sure that we get the required treatment.
Thank you. You, of course, anticipated what was going to be my concluding questions, and that is, of course, generally, how can expectant fathers, I use the term expectant father deliberately, help expectant mums and support maternity professionals in delivering a first-class service? Okay. I think you've already answered that question, but I'm going to invite you just to elaborate further the role of fathers, and I think Councillor Ochere has also alluded to this already. What role fathers play? Is it essential or is it peripheral? Is it one that the profession welcomes or they resistance? Just give us a sense of the role of fathers. Are we a contributing factor to good professional support for birthing mothers?
It's really interesting because one of my first deliveries, the father ended up on the floor. It was not useful when we were trying to get the required care to the woman. But I think that goes back to my point that being well prepared means that you're not overwhelmed by the things that you see. Having breakfast as well before you get into the maternity room or something to eat is also my best advice. But I think, as you quite rightly point out, you're a unit. So, both the mother and the father are units together as parents. And that newborn baby, when it eventually gets here, belongs to both.
Yes.
And both will be making the decisions, and both should be making the decisions all the way through the delivery. Up to the birth. So it's very, very useful. Advocacy is useful in all healthcare, not just in maternity care. That goes back to two heads are better than one. Sometimes you need to discuss a problem and seek your best advice, which is why we're also now in health ensuring that people can seek second opinions and ask those questions. Because so for me, it's absolutely essential, but it's about preparation. I can't stress it enough. Education and preparation. Now, you're fortunate enough, some people, to learn it as your wife is going through the 9 months of pregnancy. But I'm a real firm believer that we should have parenting educational classes, and specifically for fathers, in order to deal with some of those things that we see. Postnatal depression, if you don't understand it, you can't help it.
Quite,
yes. You don't. When do you know to seek medical intervention unless we as a society discuss some of those things? Understanding and being able to take action or seek intervention at an appropriate time is absolutely crucial. But pregnancy does have risks. There are people that go around saying it doesn't have any risks. It certainly does have risks. And the way in which we manage risks mean we have to be alert to them and take the necessary action to prevent them arising. But also, if they do arise, the quicker you take action, the better it is.
Is the profession open to this, what is effectively a rising level of scrutiny and intervention by what is, you say, a unit? The father being present and possibly far more pushy in terms of understanding what they need and when it should be delivered. Are the profession ready for this? Is it a change of culture for intents and purposes? You said 20, 30 years ago, this would not have happened. Is the profession ready, Professor?
I think they are. I think sort of, if you went back even further to my mother giving birth, they'd throw the men out the room, weren't they?
Right, yes.
And even have them in the maternity unit. So I think we recognise that, and this applies to all healthcare. You can't just be doing healthcare to people. People have to be involved in their healthcare, and the way in which it's delivered and how it's delivered and why it's delivered. And I think if health has learned anything over the years that I've certainly been around as a health professional, is that the profession cannot do these things on its own. You know, your podcast this morning is about making sure that the profession, not just the profession, but the people, the community recognises that health is their responsibility as well. It's not a professional's. It's not just a professional. We're trained to help and keep you safe and to guide you and give you the best advice that we can. But actually, we can't just relieve you of responsibility to look after yourself as well. And so for me, the profession is ready. I think we still have issues, and you know, whether it's bias or racism, that people are still feeling ignored.
Yes.
And that's why it's essential that we teach people to speak up, we empower people. And whether that's antenatal educational sessions that are meaningful, they're not just going through the birth canal and understanding the stages of childbirth, but also the necessary empowerment, what consent means, what confidentiality means. All of those things have to be covered with our community, because we only deliver healthcare by consent, really.
Thank you, and thank you for that response. That's very clear. In other words, the profession is ready and is welcome the contribution that both birthing parents can contribute to delivering first-class maternity care. Okay, I think that message is clear. But I'm equally keen, for this podcast, of course, is to give promotion to the Listening to Fathers event on the 13th of July. I'm going to invite Councillor Ochere really to talk to that and encourage fathers, one, to come along on the 13th, and two, to speak up. What would you say to them to encourage them to come along and speak up? There you go.
I think it's a crucial event that will bring together fathers, not just to talk about their experiences, but what we can do to be a part of the ongoing journey to improving maternal health for all women. And it goes back to the earlier point that I made, which is that the involvement of fathers in maternal health isn't just beneficial, but I think it's essential. And their support and advocacy and active participation, for which this listening event can help, I think, address many of the disparities that we've talked about here today, and the outcomes that will ensure that mothers do indeed achieve the care and respect that they deserve during the birthing process. But I guess all this is done with the backdrop of ultimately fostering a supportive and an equitable environment. And I think that fathers can definitely contribute to the overall health and well-being of mothers, you know, prenatally and postnatally. So yeah, I would encourage as many men as possible who are available on, I think it's the 13th of July, to come along.
Great. And just to pursue it a little further, if I may, just for clarity's sake, so fathers can online, I understand, complete a questionnaire, maybe Professor Bitt may be aware, complete a questionnaire and feed into the Commission that way as well, I understand, as well as go along on the 13th. And I believe you're interested both those who are mature fathers, as you were, okay, who've had a number of children, and those who are going through the experience for the first time, and this is their first contact with the maternity care services, and what are their impressions? That's really what I believe that's right, that both of you, that's what you want to get a sense of, the experience, what has happened. Are you being listened to? What have you discovered about yourself, your partner? What are the differences between a maternity nurse and I believe you have a healthcare assistant in the maternity services? What are their different roles? For example, I recall, just give an example, approaching what I now discovered to be healthcare assistant and asking a lot of technical questions of this person and being bemused that she walked away totally unable to respond to my question. So my question Professor, why on earth was such a person in maternity care exposed to fathers like myself? What would you say to that?
So, you know, we have had to open up and have more people in maternity care, and often they deliver very practical care,
Yeah.
which isn't about understanding sometimes the mechanics of how the body works, but also they're often weighing babies. They're often, you know, helping women get on with pass urine when people vomit. There are lots of things that assistance is required for in delivery of care, and they can be trained to take observations, to give medicines. So there are many roles that people can give, but often what we know is that your midwife, after 3 years of training, will have the necessary knowledge and degree level to be able to answer your questions. So it's really essential that you're directed to the right person to answer your questions. But in terms of the delivery of care, we know that we don't have enough midwives. We know we've had to increase our workforce in many aspects. We've done it in nursing. We've done it in medicine, so we've got associates helping doctors, because actually with the amount of work, it's incredibly difficult. And I think I've frozen.
Yes, you did for a moment. Okay, don't worry. We're here.
But yes, and that's the reason why. But there are people that are around. There are professionals around with the required knowledge that can give you the answers to your questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We're almost to a close now. If I can go to you, Councillor Ochere, as you will be present on the 13th, and you'll be chairing the Q&A with fathers and so on. What would be your final message to fathers, and why you said it, but I want you to re-emphasise why it's important that they respond to this commission? Because I've noted, and for me, Professor, I've noted there are not many commissions of this type across the country. Southwark, as usual, is leading the way. You know, I'm a bit biased, I know. But Councillor Ochere, what would you say to fathers to encourage them, even if they're not a Southwark resident, nevertheless to contribute to this dialogue between the commission, which is made up of health professionals, and the wider community? What would you say?
Look, I'd mention what I highlighted earlier, which is, look, active participation in pregnancy and the child birthing process helps fathers ultimately not just bond with their partners and children, but helps to foster, in my opinion, a supportive family environment. And I think in order for a supportive family environment to continue to thrive, we all need to be involved. And that's not just mothers, that's fathers as well. And ultimately that bond is critical for not just the mental and emotional well-being of the mother, but it's also important for the type of environment that we foster for our children to come and who are here. And so definitely having as many fathers around the table, those who are yet to become fathers and those who are fathers, I think is really important in just changing not just the perception of the role of fathers, but also the reality of the role that fathers can have and should have in ensuring that family bonds and our community is able to be much brighter because of the insight that we're able to bring to the table and contribute to the development and well-being of women who do an amazing job in carrying a baby and bringing it into the world, and ultimately once they brought them into the world, it just doesn't, our role shouldn't just stop there. There needs to be a continuous level of support from us as fathers, and hopefully that will strengthen our community ties and family bonds.
Well said. I'm not going to say another word on yourself. absolutely spot on, and let's hope that we get hundreds of fathers, if not thousands, coming along to what is a very constrained room. But let's hope so, and I believe that will happen. Professor, I'm going to give the last word to yourself. Okay. You are, of course, Vice Chair of the Commission, and it's addressed a number of aspects of maternity care services. And of course, the 13th of July will focus on and listening to fathers. There is one coming up quite soon, I believe. But you may just want to give us an overview of the Commission and the direction of travel and the likelihood of when you might produce a report that might be considered by the NHS, the Council and others. Yeah, over to you.
So we're hoping to have the report produced by the end of 2024. Okay. That's as close as we've got to an exact date. Partly because we've got, obviously these things are subject to people responding, and many people have responded. But also we've got one of the things we've promised is we wanted to implement change locally. So we do need to speak to all the services, the ICBs, everyone, to make sure everyone's on the same page about the change that we want to bring about. And I think what I can say about this report is that because it's councillor-led, we want to see that the recommendations absolutely implemented. Yes. So what we would ask is people that want to respond to the Commission, there is a page, there's a web page, and it's southwark.gov.uk Maternity Commission, and there's also a Maternity Commission inbox at southwark.gov.uk. So any questions that people want to ask about birthing, anything you want to let us know about the experiences, please contact us.
Brilliant. You've both been excellent guests this morning. You've shared a great deal of information. I know you have empowered people. They will not simply sit there and receive the information, but they will act upon the information. The whole purpose of these podcasts is that we translate our words into action, and I'm assured that action will follow this interview. I want to thank you both for being outstanding guests. I will continue to promote the Commission's work, and close to the date, I will, of course, invite, hopefully, Councillor Ochere, the Chair, to speak on this subject once more, to emphasise the importance of fathers within the maternity care service delivery. Thank you, both of you. I know, Councillor Chair, you've got your little ones nearby. You've been very quiet, I must say.
I have the baby monitor here, so just in case it goes off. So it hasn't gone off, so that's all good. And Alexis is somewhere. So,
oh, wonderful father, wonderful father. Yeah. Thank you, both of you. Have a good weekend, and I look forward to speaking to you both again. And thank you for information shared, and I look forward to future successes from you both. Good day to you. Good day. Good day.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye. Well, that's an excellent example. There you are, people. That was an excellent example of what is possible when you work together in common aim and common purpose. Absolutely fantastic. And I will have in the coming shows details of the Maternity Commission, the dates and location where you can attend and contribute to the Commission's deliberations. It is an important step forward to change the outcome, to change the current profile of both mothers and fathers when going through the maternity care experience. It is really important that we not ignore this. If you are a father and have been a father for long standing, you have an experience to share. If you're a new father, or indeed an expectant father, you have an experience to share. More details will follow in future podcasts. Now that we've heard from that aspect of the show, what I want to do now is just give light to a few of the important organisations that kind of feed into these issues which are important to us. The one organisation I want to put up on the screen, and as you know, this is an organisation I've got enormous time for, and that's, of course, the National Association of Black Supplementary Schools. Let me put it up on the screen for you. They put it up on the screen. There you go. Now, of course, the National Association of Black Supplementary Schools, or NABS, if you like, on their website address is www.nabss.org.uk, or you can email them at info@nabss.org.uk, or speak directly with the inspired Rodinier on 07958 348 558. And he's given me a mission, a call out to the community. If you manage a supplementary school, whatever form it might take, it could be one that's focused on purely academic support, or it could be cultural, or it could indeed be religious. If you manage a school of this type, particularly one that's wholly funded by the community, we want to hear from you. He wants to hear from you and ensure your school, your facility is recorded on the National Association of Black Supplementary Schools website. It's a call out. And if you are not recorded on that website, I urge you to go onto the website, and you should be able to update it yourself. And if there's any difficulties, contact Rodinier and he will help you to update your details or add your details to the website. And his number is, I repeat, if you're in the UK, 07958 348 558. An important initiative, an important service. Is totally dedicated to supporting our young people. Totally dedicated, and I commend his work to you all. I also want to give light and, of course, give note, of course, to other important initiatives which are underway within the community. I want to just remind you of a remarkable Dr. Carlton Brown, entrepreneur extraordinaire. And of course, later on this year, in fact, in July, he will be holding the UK Black Business Entrepreneurs Conference of 2024. Okay, it is an important event. It'll be on the 11th of July between 9 and 5 p.m. It's an important event. You can obtain your ticket via Eventbrite. If you put in the UK Black Business Entrepreneurs Conference, we have captains of industry, we have banks and other financial institutions, all there to support the Black community, the African communities, entrepreneurial economic development. It's an important conference and one I commend to the community. And well done, Dr. Carlton Brown. Long may you continue your outstanding works on behalf of the community. So that's that one. And again, an important initiative, one that you should take advantage of. Another one of these initiatives I would give light to, and of course, I am always concerned about that important country, Great Nigeria. Okay, as you know, at least once a month or thereabout, I do a podcast which focuses on that great country, that could potentially have, within the next 20, 30 years, 500 million African peoples in it. It is and will remain an economic powerhouse. It will be a powerhouse for the entire continent. It's an important country that must succeed. And therefore, all the strifes and struggles that's going on at the moment, we together can and will find a solution. And an organisation which is very much on the solutions trail, I want to give light and applaud the work of NINAS. Okay, now NINAS is an organisation which is made up of all the communities in Nigeria, and what they seek is the peace, so we can create prosperity for all. I say again, seek peace to create prosperity for all. It might require that the internal structure of what we call Great Nigeria would need to be changed in order for that peace to be reinforced, structurally enforced in the country, so that the various communities can work alongside each other as opposed to being dominated by each other in order for peace, to create prosperity for all. To contact the NINAS Secretariat, and I commend this organisation to you, their website address is www.ninasvoice, NINASVOICE, ninasvoice.org. You can go via the website. You can make direct contact with NINAS, join with them. It doesn't matter if you're Yoruba or Igbo. If indeed you're Hausa or other communities, join with the NINAS so you can create peace, so you can have prosperity for all. I commend the NINAS organization to you. Email address info@ninasvoice.org, or you can phone them directly. The NINAS Secretariat, that's international, +234 912 1551. And you recall, I had representative of the Secretariat on this podcast only some time ago, in fact, last month. And of course, alongside the remarkable Ndidi Ichiwa, remarkable person, a remarkable human being. I commend NINAS to you. Peace, so you can achieve prosperity for all Nigerians. An essential path for all of us, Africans, wherever you are in the world, to support Nigeria, so you can achieve peace, so you can create prosperity for all. And of course, I must give light, of course, to how I started the show, of course. That is, of course, focused on their Windrush warriors. Now, Windrush, of course, I know it's very much a Caribbean terminology. I get that. But actually, the hostile environment, those who were denied their citizenship or been deported illegally by the British government, okay, you have legal rights. I say again, you have legal rights. You should not give up the fight. Okay. Now, if you need advice, what I wish to do is to bring up on the screen now. I wish to bring to your attention a group that I had on this podcast only a little while ago. In fact, a month or so ago. There you go. You can make contact with the Windrush Legal Advice Clinic, and they're at 58 Bank Street, West Midlands. That's WV148PD, or you can email them at info@Windrush Legal Advice Clinic. No spaces, Windrush Legal Advice Clinic.com. Windrush Legal Advice Clinic.com. Info@Windrush Legal Advice Clinic.com, or you can phone on, if you're in the UK, 01902 382 542. An important support for the whole community. And if you know someone who is affected, please urge them to seek and obtain this advice. It's free. It is free. It is free. Now, I should also give out details, and I don't have a paid caption for this at this stage. And that's, of course, those who are given advice as to how to access the Windrush compensation scheme. Now, if I can bring up on my screen in a second, I can't put it up on this screen, but I'll give you the details over the air, and in future episodes of this podcast, I'll put it up on the screen as well. But the Windrush compensation screen are always holding almost weekly meetings. They're holding one today. And if I can just bring up on my screen here, there we go. They're holding one today. It's actually an online meeting, it would appear. It is an online meeting, and I've got the Zoom details here. I think that's right. If there's anyone from the Windrush Compensation Scheme initiative who wish to call in, I'm going to give you leeway to call in now and provide the more substantive details, so those who require your support can have your first-hand account. But I believe it's a Zoom-only meeting, and if I've got that wrong, I'd invite you to call. And if you are going to call, use the usual studio number, and I'll bring it up on the screen in a moment. But if in doubt, I say to people, if in doubt, please ask questions. And if you're from the compensation scheme initiative, please do so. And the number to call this studio, if you're from that compensation scheme and you are responsible for these events, please call 0203 289 6504. That's the studio number, 0203 289 6504. please call now if you're able to. If not, I'll have to ensure for my next podcast we have far more details available. I'm not sure I can give out the Zoom details over the air, but there you are. Please call if you are listening and you coordinate the Windrush Compensation Scheme meetings. Okay, there you are. That's 0203 289 6504. And if I just say in closing, you just heard and you have seen throughout this show examples where the community is asserting itself. Okay, you heard from the new mayor of Southwark, okay, Councillor Naima Ali, articulate, thoughtful, compassionate politician. Okay, born in Somalia, yep, came here with little, but has grown to a tremendous human being here in Britain. Okay? And she's now contributing in truly positive ways. It could be you. It could be you. We need to come together in common aim and common purpose. Join an organization. I'll just say this in closing. I would recommend, if you're not joined an organization yet, want to contact the Global African Congress, UK. We have a Facebook page, okay? I encourage you to do so. In the next week or so, we're going to have a discussion about the Global African Congress lobby of Parliament to ensure reparation is is an issue that's discussed in the next general election. Equally, in regards to the Windrush Compensation Scheme and the Windrush situation completely, the Windrush Act, we should have a Windrush Act to enshrine in law the rights of Africans. Yeah, those who came here legally to their citizenship of Great Britain. Okay, we need a Windrush Act, and hopefully we'll have a member of that team here to discuss the potential for a Windrush Act. This is a time to lobby with vigor, with intention, because our voices will be heard. All righty. That was, I've got to tell you, a truly thrilling experience, a thrilling podcast, a thrilling show. Now it's time for me to close. Until the next strong, I am the motivator, where we translate words into action, and where success is ours for the taking. The Motivator Show. The internet's most inspirational podcast. Every Saturday morning from 8 to 10. The Motivator Show. Father's opinions of Britain's maternity services. Black maternal health care mortality debate in Parliament on Monday the 19th of April 2021. Keynote speaker Bell Rebel Addy MP. Black women are 4 times more likely to die during pregnancy and childbirth, highlighting a severe racial disparity in maternal health care. She observed that perceptions and treatment of black women during pregnancy are often biased and inadequate. A significant percentage of African and Caribbean women experience severe complications during pregnancy, yet there are no specific targets to address these issues. Black babies have a significantly higher risk of neonatal death and stillbirth, emphasizing the urgency for targeted intervention. Bell criticises the UK government for denying institutional racism and calls for concrete action and targets to protect black women and, of course, our children. The All-Party Parliamentary Group on Black Maternal Health, the MPs pledge. I pledge to call on the government to use existing data to set targets to close the gap in the mortality rates and address the overall disparities in maternal outcomes. The list of MPs who have signed the pledge so far include Diane Abbott, Lillian Greenwood, Kim Johnson, Helen Hayes, Douglas Chapman, John McNally, Belle Ribeiro Addy, Asma Begum, Florence Eshalomi, Caroline Noakes, Marsha Dekova, MPs. Research by Bournemouth University, Dr. Andrew Mayers, Principal Academic in Psychology, Fathers in Maternity Care Services. Studies reveal that fathers felt alienated and unclear regarding their role within maternity services. Many fathers reported feeling isolated and ignored during and following traumatic birth experiences, such as following an emergency cesarean section or any other variation from a birth plan, especially if there's a potential risk of harm or death for the mother or child. Healthcare professionals and perinatal mental health services need a better understanding of what support fathers feel they may need during their partner's pregnancy. New dads and partners, how your involvement matters, the impact. Research shows that the presence of an involved father during pregnancy reduces rates of premature birth and infant mortality. For example, mothers-to-be with involved fathers are 50% more likely to receive appropriate medical care during pregnancy. And mothers-to-be who were smokers when they became pregnant are 36% more likely to quit smoking when fathers are supportive. The fathers or partners can also be a great birth coach. They can help the pregnant partner with breathing and positioning during labour, while paying attention to the signals they are giving about how much help they want from moment to moment. New dads and partners, how your involvement matters, the impact. Compared to newborns in a crib, in the first 2 hours after birth, a baby placed on their father's chest cries less, falls asleep sooner, and shows less agitation. But whatever the situation, the mother will need care, and fathers have a chance to enjoy the closeness of their newborn baby while skin to skin. New dads and partners, how your involvement matters, the impact. Sleep deprivation is inevitable with a new baby, but fathers and partners can help here too. Take shifts with nappy changes, feeding if bottle feeding, and rocking and calming the newborn. Even just a few hours in bed can help mums cope better with the stresses of a new parenthood. Putting effort into helping the mother adjust to having a baby will help both parents overcome the stress and fatigue of this enormous life change. Make time for cuddling, snuggling, and massaging, activities that contribute to a strong and loving bond. New dads and partners, how your involvement matters. Southwark Council's Maternity Commission, listening to fathers and male carers. On the 13th of July 2024, from 10:30 to 12:30. Location, First Place Children's Centre, Chumley Gardens, in Burgess Park, London, SE5 0RJ. Lunch is provided. Your opportunity to be heard. The Motivator Show. Success is ours for the taking. subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's free. Press the like button and don't forget to leave a comment. Follow us on Facebook. Give us the thumbs up and share with your family and friends. We are also on Instagram and TikTok. Follow us there too. You can listen to us on galaxy.net and also Mixcloud too.